good evening, or good morning, everybody, whatever you want to consider it. I'm Mason Sapesky. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Pitt Football Game Day postgame show. I just got home and took a shower a little while ago from the game, and it was awful to say the least. I don't even know where to start. First off, I can't believe what I just saw, to be honest with you. I mean, as I had said, I'm not surprised with the outcome at all. I predicted WVU, West Virginia, to win the football game. But the way we played was pathetic, to say the least. I'm going to start off this video by circling back to a comment that Neil Brown made yesterday on 93.7 The Fan. As I have mentioned multiple times, when I drive home from school, work, getting groceries, wherever I'm going, I always have on the fan. And yesterday when I was driving home from school, the head football coach of the West Virginia University Mountaineers football team, Neil Brown, was on 93.7 The Fan. He said we're expecting a different Panthers team from the one that took on Cincinnati last week. Pitt doesn't have 2 bad weeks in a row. Neil Brown may have won this game, but Neil Brown is not right about everything. This statement proved it. Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers have had 2 bad weeks in a row. There's probably not going to be a bowl game this year for Pitt. I don't know where this team is headed. This team has no direction. There's no answer at the quarterback position. And the coaching staff, I believe, is too arrogant to make the change that is necessary at the starting quarterback position. That's where I'm going to start off today. And where most Pitt fans will start off is the quarterback position. Phil Jurkovec does not have it anymore. He had a really good passer rating. I don't know if it was freshman, sophomore year, whatever year 2019 was for him when he was in Notre Dame. He's not the same quarterback he was then, unfortunately. He is not the answer for Pitt football. We all know how good of a recruiter James Franklin is at Penn State. James Franklin recruited a kid by the name of Christian Valu to come play for him. Valu signed, played at Penn State for a year, backed up obviously Sean Clifford, Drew Auer, and whoever the backup is. I think the backup to Drew Auer now, I think, is a freshman, so take that person out of the equation. He was the backup to Clifford. An hour. He didn't think he would get the starting job over Auer, so he decided to transfer out of Penn State and down to Pitt. Put this in perspective. Christian Valu was recruited by James Franklin. James Franklin's one of the best recruiters in college football. If you can connect the dots between this and you can read my mind, the point I'm trying to make here is, obviously, there's something special about Christian Valu. Why is he not Pitt's starting quarterback? Why can't he be our starting quarterback? I mean, we knew we were going to lose the game late. Why not give him a chance? So here's what we're going to do. Before I get into the next part, I just want to start off by recapping the game. So we're going to start in the first quarter. Pitt wins the toss. They defer. I wanted Pitt to do this because I wanted to see us do what Cincinnati did last week to us. That was make them go 3 and out on defense, run the ball down their throat. Well, maybe not that, and score a touchdown early or score points early. WVU did go 3 and out. We ran the ball down their throat. And and we got a field goal. The score stayed 3-0. Then we let the Mountaineers drive all the way down to our 15-yard line. By the way, first, it would be tough to point this part out because I think this was a game-changing moment, truly, but after that drive with the field goal and all that, the Mountaineers' second series, unfortunately, their starting quarterback Garrett Green got hurt and he had to come out of the game. So WVU's backup, Nico something, I forget his last name, but this I become tired since it's late, but Nico something came in then at that point. So now at this point, we're well underway in the second quarter. We're winning this game 3-0. Frazier, I think he's the center. Zach Frazier, I really like him. I think he's going to be a good NFL player. Hopefully the Steelers draft him. Well, that'll be another story on my Steelers game day pregame. So, but anyway, now back for this one. Frazier snaps the ball to Nico, the quarterback. He loses it. The Pitt defense recovers it. We get a much-needed turnover, and I'm feeling really good. 2 plays later, this turnover, I found out, along with the rest of the game, this turnover was actually a big help for the Mountaineers and not the Pitt Panthers. Phil Jurkovec throws an interception. WV gets the ball down to R7. The very first play on offense, Nico flips it to the tight end. West Virginia leads 7-3. We get a field goal. Or no. Do we get a field goal? Yeah, we do get a field goal. It's 7-6 at halftime. West Virginia Mountaineers. Second half comes out. And I forget what series it was. Phil Jurkovec throws a pick. Second pick of the night. At this point, we're now like 3 for 10, 4 for 10 maybe. What do? I don't know what you do. So you're 4 for 10 at this point. You have like 25 yards passing. And you've thrown for 2 interceptions. That's a reason for benching him for Volu. They did not bench him for Volu. Instead, they kept him in. West Virginia scored a touchdown. Again, C.J. Donaldson, one of the best running backs in the nation, behind that dominant offensive line. 14-6 Mountaineers. And this is where the second turnover happens. This is the turnover. I'm sorry, I lost my mind there. I lost myself there. But this is where the turnover happens. It's 14-6 WVU. Jurkovec throws his second interception of the day. WVU gets a field goal. 17-6 WVU. That would stay that way the rest of the game. And WVU would hang on to win by a final score of 17-6. One thing I learned tonight, and I added this to my football IQ, is this. I learned tonight what the consequences are if an offense elects to only do one thing the whole game. We ran the ball the whole game. It did not work tonight. If you don't trust your quarterback enough to throw the ball, how are you going to trust him enough to win you games? It sucks. It honestly does that we have a coach that's so arrogant and greedy that's not going to put in the backup, Christian Volu, but instead will leave Phil Jurkovec in the game. And I better watch my mouth because I'm going to get in big trouble for this, but I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back, but a coach that's made a mistake, obviously, by keeping in Christian Volu, or not keeping in Phil Jurkovec, letting him continue to throw interceptions, I feel bad for Jurkovec just saying this, but the more interceptions and stuff and all that he throws, how do you think that affects his confidence and his mental well-being? It does not. He was rattled. Pitt needed a spark. He wasn't going to provide that spark. It's disappointing, to say the least, that we kept him in. I'm shocked. So, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know where Pitt's going to go from here, to be honest. My only suggestion is this. Keep an eye out on practice this week. 1 week of practice is not going to improve your football team. That's for sure. 2 weeks or even 3 weeks of practice will not improve your football team, that's for sure. It's going to take a lot. I don't know if putting in Christian Blue is the answer or not. If it's not the answer, then we need to find a quarterback recruit who can do something. Because something needs to change fast. I mean, look. How is Pitt not able to be a perennial contender every year? And I get it. Look, when you look at the Big Ten, I mean, not even schools like Wisconsin, Michigan State, even Michigan, because they stunk during the COVID year. And they stunk other years too. But not every school can be a contender every year. This is going to bounce. Even like Florida State, USC, and even Colorado. But the ball is going to bounce back and forth, 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 back and forth. Colleges are going to miss bowl games every so often. Last year, Texas A&M, Miami of Florida, Michigan State. Guess how many college football bowls included one of those teams? 0. Even they make mistakes. So I'm not saying Pitt can't make mistakes. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, these mistakes that we're making are fixable. And I don't know. I really, in all honesty, I don't want to criticize anybody right now. It's disappointing to say the least, but I don't want to criticize anybody because I'm afraid it's going to lead to consequences for me in the future, but yeah. All right, we're going to move into our next segment now of this show. And that is, and actually I'm going to use this opportunity here to just apologize to Coach Narduzzi. I mean, I know what I said about you being arrogant earlier was inappropriate, so I'm sorry, and I take that back completely. So I'm totally sorry about that. Please forgive me for that. But now we're going to move into the next segment, and I'm going to need my iPad for this. We're going to read some tweets, because I was reading a lot of tweets when we went out to dinner after the game and on the car ride home. I just want to read those tweets. Oh, I think I get tired. Discuss them with you guys so that we can just talk about these tweets because I found them interesting and I want to share them with you guys. This is from the Hockey House. Pitt's hockey team put up more points than their football team on Saturday. That's sad. That's really sad. Justin W. I assume WVU and PSU fans, or Justin W. I assure WVU and PSU fans, no one hates Pitt more than Pitt fans right now. Mike J. Asti. WVU defensive back Beanie Bishop on Pitt quarterback Phil Jurkovec. We knew he wasn't too good at his job. I want to touch on this one a bit. It's extremely sad, upsetting, and disappointing to read a tweet like this. For your opponent to come out and say, and I'm trying hard not to laugh here, but for an opponent to come out and say, we knew he wasn't too good at his job. Disappointing. Very disappointing. Pittsburgh Sports Now. Jake Cradle says Pitt O-line needs to protect Phil Jurkovec better. I can see this. There's two things that I'm not going to critique Phil Jurkovec on, as I try to get back to where I was in the tweets. But for sure, I mean, the O-line needs to be better. They need to play better. This game's not all Fildzerkovic's fault. I will be the first to say that. When you look at the O-line, they could have played better. Those receivers could have caught a couple more balls. Don't go blaming the defense, because I think the defense did great tonight, but other than that, for sure. Tyler Jeske. I look at the schedule and see at least 5 or 6 more losses for Pitt this season. UNC, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami, Duke, and Louisville. Okay, we don't even play Miami, so I don't know why that's on there. I'm not confident they can beat any of them right now. Syracuse and Boston College look good today, and Virginia Tech is in Blacksburg, which is a hostile environment. Scary. It's going to be very scary. For sure. Let's type in West Virginia football, see if there's anything under this. Bob Pompiani. Andy from KDK Sports. Only 4 completions for Fildzerkovic into the fourth quarter against the WVU secondary, which has been the worst in college football in the last 2 years. Terrible plan, terrible execution. This was the other thing I wanted to say. So this is the worst secondary in college football, or at least one of them. We couldn't score. We were not confident throwing the ball against them. That's kind of sad, to be honest with you. It's disappointing, to be honest with you. So that tells you all you need to know about Fildzerkovic, in all honesty. This one's actually really funny. Sean Lavery. Kind of wild that West Virginia can afford a football coach but not a math department, even though that doesn't relate to the game, but that's really funny. Give Neil Brown credit. That's all. That ends the tweet segment, and I think that's also going to end this show. Before I leave, let's just talk about the schedule real quick and what can happen. So when I think about this, I look back a lot to 2017 and 2018. 2017, we were 5-7 that year. That was the last year we missed a bowl game. Although I don't think we didn't go to a bowl game the COVID year, because I think we were 500. We just declined to go because I think a lot of them, in all honesty, were getting canceled because of the virus and all that. So kind of smart though that we didn't go, because I don't think Penn State went either, although Penn State was not good that year. But I think a lot of teams, even that they were good, they just didn't go because of they're afraid of getting all their players sick and all that. But this reminds me a lot of 2017-18. 2017. It was the last quote-unquote, and I'm going to say this because of quote-unquote because I just brought up COVID. So quote-unquote normal year that we missed a bowl game. And when I said normal, I meant there wasn't a virus that killed millions of people. Not by normal relating to Pitt. But anyway, back to what I was saying. It was the last normal year we missed a bowl game. We were 5-7 that year. We beat the U, knocked them out of the playoffs. Kenny Pickett. It was his first game ever as a Pitt starter, freshman in college. We finished 5-7, and we felt good. 2018, we were in the ACC championship. We may have lost to Clemson, but at least we were there. 2023 reminds me a lot of 2020 or 2017 for Pitt. What happens here is important. Because even though if we miss a bowl game, I still wouldn't want to be 3-9 or even 4-8. If you miss a bowl game at 5-7, it would be disappointing, but look at what other teams have done. Last year's USC. Last year's Florida State. Maybe this year's Texas A&M. Maybe this year's Miami, Florida. We'll see what happens, but possibly this year's Michigan State. It happens to the best of schools. There's only a couple of schools immune from missing a bowl game. Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, and Alabama. Michigan missed it in 2020 as well, although that was COVID, so maybe don't count that year. But they were never real good even before COVID as well. I mean, it happens to the best of schools. To be honest. So missing a bowl game is understandable. 1 year. If you look at a decade, and you look at the beginning of the decade being 2020, and the end of the decade being 2029. If 2 out of 10 years in that decade you miss a bowl game, 2 out of 10 years in that decade you win a conference championship, 1 out of 10 years in that decade you make the playoff, and the other 8 you're like 7, 5, 8, and 4, 9, 3 and make bowl games, you had a pretty solid decade in my opinion. So missing a bowl game is understandable. However, if Pitt does miss a bowl game this year, which I think is very likely, we need to find a way to come out swinging in 2024 and beyond. And we need to learn from this. I think it's time to realize that the transfer, and this is not just for Pitt, but for all college football teams. I think that it's time that we need to go back to recruiting. The transfer portal is cool and fun and all that, but I think it's time that we go back to recruiting and start to recruit players. Because when you recruit, you can develop. Unfortunately, Phil Jurkovec was not able to be developed under Narduzzi. Pat Narduzzi was like his third college head coach he had. Notre Dame, Boston College, Pitt. So there's not much developing that Phil Jurkovec could have done at Pitt. So I don't know what to say about that, but I think it feels good when you develop a quarterback, like Penn State is doing now with Drew Aller, like Ohio State did with C.J. Stroud, like what Alabama did with Bryce Young, like what Florida did with Anthony Richardson. For real. And remember, James Franklin recruited John Clifford, who is the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. James Franklin recruited Will Levis, who was picked 33rd overall by the Tennessee Titans. Could have been picked much higher. Should have, because he's going to be really good. And is on an NFL roster. James Franklin recruited Drew Aller, who is the face of college football right now because he's doing really well for Penn State. And last but not least, James Franklin recruited Christian Ballou, the kid who transferred out of Penn State to play for Pitt. The question now becomes, will Ballou see the field this year, or next, or ever? We're going to have to see where this goes. I'm sticking along for the ride. I'm keeping the faith. Have a good night, everybody. Sorry if I upset or offended anybody. And just remember, WVU fans, we still have more backyard brawl wins than you guys. Regardless, though, right now, if you're Panther or Mountaineer, have a good night. Stay safe. Take care. I'll see you around. Keep tuning into my videos, because regardless of if you're a Panther or a Mountaineer, I want you to continue to view my videos and be a supporter of this channel, because I love bringing this content to you regardless of if you're a Panther or Mountaineer, as I've said. And like I've said, just keep spreading the word about this channel. Keep supporting this channel. Just stay there. That's all I have. Have a good one. Take care. Stay safe. Peace. And good night. Peace.